Hey, how's it going, everybody? I'm Jason Moore from MakingStarWars.net, and we got like this Brady Bunch thing going on today because I was got old man Force Ghost Rob, and we got Bespin from Best Tooney, and then Mr. Azature,
Hello.
who's how's it going, Azature? How's it going, Bespin? How's it going, everybody?
Are you sure that isn't Moff Gideon after the fire? Right?
Hmm. I, I I I saw a picture this week of Mark Hamilton from the band Ash with George Lucas. And in that picture, I think he might be your father. It's about your age, and you guys look like you could be brothers in that picture. So if you're wondering, he might owe you some child support. Just saying. But
Bespin.
as a truth, it's
Bespin.
like, what the hell is going on right now? But yeah, so there was a an article that went up on Bespin Bulletin dat cam, and where he was covering the hot mic, who's not a guy. Contrary to popular opinion, hot mic is a different thing. That's a different guy.
I watched that hot mic. I'm not gonna say anything about it. I'm gonna let you read the article, but I just
Okay.
want to say, Spreezy can't help himself. Like they go through all this info, and then right at the end,
Yep.
Spreezy shows up and asks them for the shit they already talked about. Like it was the best.
That's our Spreezy.
They were clearly annoyed.
Easy, squeezy,
Hey.
Chris, breezy.
At least he tried, you know.
He did try, but he should watch the episode. Like, I don't know.
He texted me and he said, "What question should I ask them?" And I told him to ask Jeff Snyder if he had a good chicken tortilla recipe, but he apparently did not.
Chicken dinner, and then you went chicken tortilla. That's crazy.
Chicken tortilla. Well, I'm trying to be healthy right now, you know.
Let's get into Star Wars news. What we got?
All right. John Boyega rumored to return in the Star Wars New Jedi Order movie. Pre-production to begin in August. And then right here we got Dr. Finn and Dr. Rey and Captain Chewbacca in the back. I think that's their official names. And if you read Bespin Bulletin, you could support him on coffee because, you know, you're cool. All right. So in March of last year, Jeff Snyder via the Angler broke the lost scribe. I can't read today. Broke that lost scribe Damon Lindelof was writing a Star Wars movie. In the months that followed, it was reported by various outlets that the project had found a director in Ms. Marvel's Charmin Obaid-Chinoy, had a writer's room assembled, and that the project was being co-written by counterparts Justin Britt Gibson. Snyder, the journalist that broke the initial news on Lindelof, provided various updates in those months too, including that an unknown male actor of color was on board the project in a leading role, and that the actor in question came attached to the project's early days. We never found out who that mystery actor was. It was Samuel L. Jackson, with names such as Brian Tyree Henry, Bullet Train, Yahya Abdul Mateen II, Aquaman, mentioned in speculation. However, according to Jeff Snyder on the latest episode of the Hot Mic podcast, that mystery actor is no longer attached to the project due to the story changes in the script following the departure of Damon Lindelof. So I need some water. I don't know why. I need some water today. It makes life grow. It has electrolytes. All right. So Jeff Snyder says whoever it was, that person is no longer attached to the project, and it's mainly due to the story changes. That they threw out Damon Lindelof's script and brought in Stephen Knight, and whoever that actor was is no longer attached. So so we lost an actor who we never knew who it was. So gonna miss you. Barely knew you. So it's unsurprising that the talent that came attached to the project due to Damon Lindelof's involvement have departed the film following his exit and likely delay in production. Original rumors regarding film pointed towards a summer start. Yeah, that's what I had originally heard, was that this was going to be in summer. But new reports claim that filming will begin in February following the creative shakeup, which says Lindelof and Brett Gibson exited the project in February after turning in a script and being replaced by Peaky Blinders creator Stephen Knight. Snyder reaffirmed that the film was still aiming to release in December 2025, and which has been reported before and after the Lindelof exit, and that Lucasfilm are looking to begin pre-production this August and likely won't be casting until around that time. So we were hearing he was hearing it's going to start in February. Now he's hearing it's going to start in August. It's actually kind of a good sign.
No,
Or was that correct?
No, so he was going to start filming this summer. So pre-pro would have started now, essentially.
Yeah.
Whereas February next year is when it's going to start filming.
Okay.
Like the actual production kicks off, but pre-pro begins in August.
Got it.
Which is, he says, we'll get casting around a similar time.
Right. That's where they're like drawing pictures of Rey and be like, this is Rey's Jedi gym and stuff like that. Okay, got it. So I'm told that so this is a quote. I'm told that we've been saying all along that Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy project, I guess, is no longer the Damon Lindelof project, the Stephen Knight and SOC project. The movie that Lucasfilm releases in December 2025 and I am told that pre-production will start in August. And so casting will start around then. They may be making lists right now at Lucasfilm for who they want in that movie, but I don't think they've gone out to any talent, and I don't think they will until after the summer. I would expect answers before Labor Day, and that's Jeff Snyder.
I know that quote is messy, but that is not me. That is his exact words. Like that's just
fair.
Not me being an idiot. That is
So. No, that's a whole thing. I mean, like a whole debate, like in ethnography, when you're doing it, do you write the quote down specifically as they say it? Do you fix it? Do you leave it? Do you change what they mean? If they say use slang, do you know what I mean? Like how far do you go? Nobody's ever been able to figure that out. I appreciate you just putting the actual data there. You know what I mean? That's the data.
It's a free chat between him and John, so that's just him speaking.
Yeah.
Not like he was in front of a podium.
No, it's just that people always like when I cover Snyder quotes. A lot of people like message saying like it's written horribly, like the quote. But I'm like, it's just what he says.
That's how people don't speak in paragraphs, necessarily. So though Snyder mentions we shouldn't expect casting updates on the project until later this summer, one name that's been announced is Daisy Ridley. Ridley. I believe it's
not
Ridley.
Daisy Motherbrain. Not Daisy Motherbrain.
I think it's Dicey Dicey Ridley is her true name. Who's returning to the role of Rey Skywalker in the flick that's set 15 years after the events of Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, and we'll see her creating a new Jedi Order. Though Snyder adds that from what he's heard, Ridley will not be the lead in the film. And that's what we originally thought too. But they were really selling it as if she was the lead in the film, and I was a little bit suspicious, I'm like, and that's why I started going like, I wonder if Lindelof left because they wanted her to be like the protagonist, and he's like, I can't not do that, and that was it. But anyways, a supporting character will be the lead. Another sequel trilogy cast member fans have speculated about regarding an appearance in the film is that of John Boyega, whose character Finn hinted at having the Force in The Rise of Skywalker. Boyega's name has yet to be attached to the project, but Jeff Snyder's Hot Mic co-host John Roca revealed on the latest episode of their show that, according to his sources, Boyega will be returning to the role of Finn in the untitled New Jedi Order movie. So this is the John Roca quote. I'll tell you this. I'm John Roca. I'll break this for myself. He didn't say he was John Roca. I said that. According to some sources that I know, a couple of different sources have reached out to me because of this show, The Hot Mic. And according to them, and what they've been hearing is John Boyega will be coming back for this movie. And that's what I've heard, what I've been hearing from a couple of my sources, trusted people that I know, says John Roca.
You gotta go, trusted people that I know.
top men. Roka, who's not,
I can hear John saying it when you speak.
Roka, who's not built the reputation of reliable reports that Jeff Snyder has just yet,
No.
shared that the sources who told him this information had previously told him accurate details regarding James Gunn's DC Studios slate. And it was just a handful of weeks ago that Roka shared information pertaining to Lucasfilm on his show that his co-host Jeff Snyder had also heard. So if Roka's words are to be believed, then it offers a very exciting update for the Shermeen Obey Chinoy flick, and will likely be an update that fans looking forward to the project will celebrate, and will without question drum up more excitement to the project. And then you can follow Bespin's socials there. Yeah.
Do you think SOC will have Poe die on a bridge, and Finn and Rey will not actually meet together in the
SOC?
series?
Wait, who's SOC? Oh, Shermaine. Shermaine. Okay.
Yeah, I cannot. They're calling her that, so I can call her that. That's just easier for me.
I don't know. I feel like I'm calling her Sock.
We call me Sketchcraft. I make my name easy. If you guys had to pronounce my last name, you'd be fucking it up left and right. I'm just being considerate. So
yeah,
I'm just saying. Do you think they'll make any of those JJ decisions?
The thing is that this film is 15 years later. So if we need context, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, that's 5 times the Clone Wars. That's 5 times Star Wars, 5 times the Clone Wars Star Wars years. So shit can be on like anything that we could imagine if they want it to be.
Clone Wars was 5 years, but had 15 years worth of content. So there was 30 years worth of content in these 15 years we haven't even seen yet, right?
Right. No, if you want to look at it from Return of the Jedi, it's from Return of the Jedi to we're 6 years out with Mando after Return of the Jedi, and so we got like double that. So point being, if it was a TV series, she would have gone through what, 6 or 7 seasons worth of content, probably. We just want to look at it in those dumb, arbitrary numbers.
Favreau content or Bad Batch content?
Favreau content.
Okay.
You've never seen the Bad Batch? Don't comment on it, you fucking poser.
I have. I watched the first season. No, you. We got the videos to prove it. I was on the show, Jason.
We got the videos to prove. You watched select episodes. You started mid-season.
I watched 8 of the 16 episodes. That's pretty good.
That's
bulk of the series. Bulk of the series.
Oh, I'm telling you, you wasted your time. But I'm letting you know you wasted your time.
Which is why I refuse to watch it ever again.
That's fair.
I went through the 2 seasons, and there's only 9 non-filler episodes in both. So
yeah, that's actually what it's like. I actually have a theory about that without getting too sidetracked. Bad Batch, basically, they write an episode that's like a core important one. Then they write a second throwaway episode that goes either before or after that episode, using the content and assets of it. And then so it's like they get kind of a freebie, not exactly a freebie, but a discounted episode off of that important one. And then they're like, look, we made 16. Yeah, you should have just made 8. But anyways, what I was going to say was we're not showing our display names. There we go. But no. Yeah, so a lot's going to happen. And we do end with, I know it's more than, we've all seen the movie. It's more than hinted at. It's literally a plot point at the end, I'd say, that he has the Force, which is how Finn knows where to hit at the very end. He's using his intuition. And so
it's because he's Moff Gideon's kid.
Well, there's like 2 or 3 ways you could go and take it at the end of the day, though. He just fucking died. That'd be fucked up.
Yeah.
Finn just fucking died. Yeah, he had heart palpitations, like from Palpatine. When Palpatine died, the palpitations took him down. Like, that would just be dumb. So I don't think they're just gonna have Finn die. They could Luke Skywalker his ass. Finn's missing. And then the other thing is Finn is also doing the same shit as Rey. So it's like, and I feel like that's the pop choice.
Has he told her his secret yet?
That he loves her, or that he has the Force?
I don't know. He never said what it was.
Well,
the movie ended. He never said it. Like,
at one point, for a time, it was going to be that he fucking loves her, and then it became I got the Force, and so before we die, I need to tell you I have the Force too. She's like, "What the fuck? Use the Force, bitch!" It's like, save us then. So like, yeah, I saw this like well, number one, the response to everything. Whenever Star Wars fans have like a week where they all didn't like something, they all act crazy. They act like fucking monsters. And luckily, a Star Wars video game comes out this week or like a week, and then we get to like go on to the next thing. It will reset the conversation for better or worse. I have no idea. I haven't played it yet, but it's gonna at least like that will take up that next future. But until now, you could say anything about Star Wars and people are gonna be like, I want to fucking kill you. And you're just like, okay, whatever, man. Whatever, bro.
That's usually what I get from the comments. Like
but that's what the response was to this. Like a lot of people were just like, no shit. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, man, number one, I'm not saying anybody's faking anything, or I'm not trying to suggest that anybody is, but I started imagining I got the story. And I was like, fuck, almost you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't on this one. Because if you go and you say something that people think is a given, then they just say you fucking made it up. But it's like the actual like value in it is somebody either you trust or you don't trust telling you that. Like I would say, for instance, like when some people who care what I had to say, when I saw Mads Mikkelsen was Thrawn, they were like, okay, now I know. Now I believe it. And I wasn't the first person to say it. But I was just like, now I know empirically with these peepers, Mikkelsen's Thrawn, trust me. And like, so like that, so if you're a Roka fan, if Roka's not taking you in wrong places in the past, or you trust Roka, then this is great news, because it means that it's, in your opinion,
I believe
it's
he was
happening.
told that.
And I don't make
up.
Yeah,
scoops.
I'm new. I'm new to the Rogue. I've known Jeff Snyder through Twitter, like not known him like friends or anything, but I've seen his stuff for years, but I wasn't familiar with Roka, so I don't have like a true take on it. I'm just like, okay, and then I'm like, he's friends with the guy that's saying all of the shit that's panning out, so that counts for a little something, I would think. Just,
yeah, I mean, he may or may not be right, but I believe he was told that.
My thing, like with and this is, once again, isn't fucking throwing shade at him or anything like that. That's not what I'm doing. It's just like I've heard a lot of stuff over the years from like Disney people that would tell me accurate things about what's happening or what they intend to happen, and then so it's like my question about that I would love to like ask is like, yeah, but was that like your opinion? Like, of course we're gonna do that, or was that like we've met with them? Like, how, like, where are you coming at this from? You know what I mean? Like I knew Disney wants Kenobi 2, but Kenobi 2 apparently isn't happening because Lucasfilm doesn't want Kenobi 2 at this time, or doesn't have that like here's the concept, we're going forward. So Disney's like, yeah, do that. That made us money. We know that's the pop idea, and
yeah, but you know what that reminds me of? When Disney decided to make that Return to Jafar $4 million direct-to-video sequel to Aladdin, and it made as much money as Aladdin, and then you were like, hey, look, that's what people want, and then you got 1 million sequels.
Mm-hmm.
So just because it makes money doesn't mean it's the best thing for the series.
Like Avatar. I'm kidding, Rob. I'm kidding. I'm just fucking with you, Rob.
I'm going to see
I'm just
tomorrow.
kidding. I'm just kidding.
They're all equally the
I'm
same.
so excited.
No, I saw
equally the same. So if you hated the first one, you probably hate the second one. Like, it's not like they gave you the cheap $4 million version of Avatar right to DVD, which would be interesting to see in a fucked up way.
No, I made the joke because I wanted to like tell you this fun fact that I read, and like the last Marvel movies haven't done stellar, but it's like I guess like Avatar's made like as much as like the 4 Marvel movies. Like the last 4 Marvel movies. So it's like Avatar for Disney, that's going to be a huge priority. And that's what I started to wonder about. Like, as I saw that, I was like, fuck, Disney's got to be like, nah, Cameron, don't take an extra year. Just keep making them. Just keep going, baby. Let's run this shit into the ground. And because they don't really care. They just want to get the
They
cash.
built the Avatar theme park before the Star Wars theme park. I'm just putting that.
Fuck you. What the fuck? What the fuck does that mean? What are you getting at, bro?
And they're building another one in LA, so you'll be able to go. Summer.
That's just another reason for me to go back then.
I'm gonna go there and blue myself. Yeah, no, it's
yes.
what do you call it? No, but point being is that there was a lot of talk, like, because like these movies, like this first one that were the Rey film, as we're calling it, even though she's not the protagonist, apparently, that's going to be the 2025 film. But there's been rumors in the trades that 2026 could see the Filoni film then, and just an opinion is that if the Filoni film won't hit unless Avatar moves, it doesn't make a lot of sense, or comes sometime with enough time that
July.
4th of July.
I think the 2026 thing is if they need to move the 2025 date to summer of 2026 or 20. Yeah, that's my guess.
Yeah, but and then like sorry,
cranking out a movie using the Disney Plus cruise would not do well for them theatrically. You would hear about it, you know. It wouldn't look too far away from what you see with Love and Thunder and Ant-Man, where you're like, hey, everyone's on a set down in Manhattan Beach, you know, and we could tell. Like, I don't need that trouble.
Is that what you're expecting, Bespin?
I expect them to, use the volume for it. I think they'll keep it in tone with the series that came before.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to talk about the volume, Bespin, right? Because I was listening to Hugo's Desk the other day, the podcast Hugo's Desk. They were going over Ant-Man Quantumania. And it's two guys. One's a visual effects compositor. It's Hugo. And then the other guy is Australian or New Zealand. He's a visual effects journalist. So they were talking about the volume and their friends who've worked on Ant-Man, Mandalorian, the Batman, off camera, right? Because like, we don't want to come on the camera. We won't get in trouble. And they were saying the problem that they have with the volume is that it's really, as we all know, it's designed to have all your assets up front and then you go and shoot. But the problem is studios are trying to treat it like green screen replacement, right? And so when you have that problem, when you do it that way, trying to like rotoscope every actor out of a background that's fully rendered is a freaking nightmare. Like before it was a big green screen, you could rotoscope out, which was tough enough. But now what they do is you got to think about it this way. You need the same amount of time to build sets in the volume as you need to build sets in real life. So if you don't have 1 to 3 months to do it, you're hosed. You get cheap looking, really bad looking stuff, you know, and you can tell it's like set building. And I think about that's the difference between maybe a Kenobi set and a Mando season 3 set, you know, is the build time on, and even Ahsoka, right, which we've seen has had plenty of time for their set building. But they were just saying that rotoscoping, you end up doubling your budget. You don't save any time that way. So now they doubled their budget and you cut your time almost in half because the suits were thinking you're going to get it done fast. But the reality is you got to bring on a lot of vendors to cheaply re-rotoscope stuff because you have moire, because LED backwalls can create moire effects. So you have to re-rotoscope, which is what the Batman did because they didn't want those rotoscoping, those moire effects in there. And it's stuff like that. Like they got cameras coming out that can mitigate some of that, but it can't mitigate changes that usually happen in production. There's iteration, and you can't make changes. You can make some changes, but if all your actors are bathed in the same light, that the volume cast on them, and they're like, oh, this all takes place at night now, and we shot the volume during a day shot. It just drives everything. It drives everyone bonkers. It doesn't get you the effect that you're hoping for, which is Star Wars or Star Wars like sets on a budget, you know.
But in terms of sorry, go ahead, Bespin.
Yeah, I still think they're going to do it in the THR report. I think it's the one that said Filoni will be December 2026.
Yeah,
they mentioned that the timeline of that is dependent on the 4th season of The Mandalorian and possibly a second of Ahsoka. So obviously both of those would use Manhattan Beach, right? So I think it's going to do their timelines and their schedules at that place. I don't think it's going to be at Pinewood. And again, we know from James Cameron, he talked about in December, right, about having 3 years between Avatar 3 and Avatar 4.
Right.
So that would make Avatar 4 December 2027. So you assume he's had a conversation with Disney if they previously announced it'd be biannually, right? So Yeah, I think the slotting Dave Filoni into December 26th is probably a hope. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, especially when they say it's timeline dependent on the various TV series he's going to be involved in. But that's what kind of makes me also think they're going to stay in Manhattan. I don't want them to. I want them to come over to Pinewood or Shinfield or wherever, because you look at the quality in something like Andor, and even from what we saw regarding the Acolyte at Star Wars Celebration, it looks vastly superior in comparison to The Mandalorian or Obi-Wan Kenobi or Boba Fett. I want them to shoot
Right.
here. Not just for, there's a chance we get set pictures or whatever, but there's more space. Like, in general, like, you look at the train yard at El Segundo, that's really ridiculously small.
No,
Like,
it's
that's without the
like
Manhattan Beach stuff.
it's literally the size of a little league baseball field.
Yeah.
If you've ever gone to see a kids baseball game, that's as big as it is. Yeah.
The only hope I have is that during the Lucasfilm showcase, Kathy made a really big deal about Pinewood and her love for it and the appreciation for it and what they've done with Star Wars.
It was promoted throughout Celebration as well. Like, they had screens everywhere about it.
Yeah. They were really pushing Pinewood.
Your limey asses, though. I'm kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, was she supposed to go to England and crow about Manhattan Beach?
It was really like weird in the showcase because they were talking about Ahsoka and praising like the process of making it and whatever. Yeah. And then they hard cut to Kathy praising real sets and like going on location shooting all this stuff like at Pinewood. From Ahsoka. I would hope that I don't know how we've ended up on Filoni, but considering we're talking about Boyega, but
we'll go back.
I would hope that the Filoni movie does come out in 2026 if that is the plan. If it's not rushed, if it is, again, Ahsoka apparently the second season is dependent on the success of the first. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't want to shoot Manhattan Beach, but I just got the feeling, just like Finn, it's just a feeling that it'll be Manhattan Beach.
I think it will be. I think that when you also, there's probably a little bit of incentive because like what you were talking about with the volume, Rob, there is that side of it, but also there's probably, I'm just assuming, the other side of it is when you're doing serialized work where you may do that set one time, but you're able to use that digital set over and over again. Right. Like if you need to, like that has to have a value to like now, like on the Mandalorian, they keep fucking changing like Navarro. It's like, oh, now it's different. Now it's built up, and so they might not get it out of it, but yeah,
it was designed LED wall. It's what the volume is, because other people have they've trademarked the volume, so other studios use LED walls. Like they're that's what House of Dragons and they're not using the volume, they're using LED wall stuff like that. But those LED wall productions, they were designed around, let's find a way to, without constructing sets, to use this thing that we can rebuild and set up and different shots, and we don't have to do a whole crew and send them to different locations around the world, and it would be great for serialized television. But studios go, way to save money. Now we don't have to build sets, and we can have everyone just sitting in a in a studio instead of a green screen now, and we can have the volume. They can just be acting in front of it. The problem with that is yes, even though before they were doing maybe a set with blue screen or green screen wall, now they're doing LED wall. The difference is, though, when you're shooting in the green screen, you can do any shot you want. You can move the camera anywhere you want. You can do any kind of stunt you want. On the volume, all that stuff has to work in parallax. There's a minimal amounts of ways you can move the camera. I noticed new camera techniques in season 3 of Mando, specifically when they go to the train yard and they're on a crane, which says to me they figured out how to scale up the wall. I think that's probably like a much bigger area than we're normally. Maybe it was the area that was developed on Kenobi for the Techno Planet, right?
Right.
But even then, it's still not the same as, you could just like any movie where they're in front of a green screen, you can move them around and you can do stunts, you can do wire work. It doesn't matter. Can't do it. How are you supposed to key out and roto out a lot of wire work in front of a wall where there's all this noise happening behind you? There's a giant space station with explosions going on. Like, how are you supposed to see that stuff?
But if you look at it from if you write to your around it and write to your budget to some extent, we could see the sort of productions where the Disney Plus shows are subsidizing the films, and the films are allowing them to go further in the production of the Disney Plus shows.
I agree.
If
So
it
the
works
shows
intended
need
correctly.
more.
But will they? Will they or not? I don't know.
So, but I've been saying there has to be an ecosystem there. You know, like ideally you'd have this ecosystem of not just technology, but narrative, right? Storylines, characters, you know, ideas that you can develop on the streaming side that then, you know, the movies are then help funding, but the streaming side maybe is carrying people. But the problem is maybe Disney, I was just revisiting that whole timeline in the 90s when they went full Disney sequel, you know, after Return of Jafar. If people don't remember, in the 90s, Aladdin was huge. It was freaking huge. We had that Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. And some bean counter over in LA, in Anaheim, was like, hey, we could spend $4 million. We got these animators on TV shows that are just sitting here rather than.
It would have been in Burbank. Would have been in Burbank, but yes. Go ahead.
Yeah, at the Burbank studio. And maybe that they didn't build a big hat yet, but it was at that other one. Mm-hmm. So they were like, hey, rather than lay people off, blah, 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 we can put them on these smaller projects for direct-to-home video, which Eisner was a huge fan of that video market. And so they spent $4 million, like a fifth of the budget, a fourth of the budget of, say, Aladdin, which I think was like a $30 million, maybe $40 million budget, probably 30. So they spent, what, a sixth of the budget on that? Like, and it did the same amount of money as freaking Aladdin. Like it drove me nuts as a fan of animation and art. I was like, this looks like dog shit. Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it did well
horrible.
because
the jokes aren't good.
Because before streaming, that VHS tape was a fucking babysitter. That's why they bought
unleashed the fury of Disney. I mean, they had a time traveling Cinderella.
Are you thinking that maybe making shit things that just had essentially cameos from the good film is what led us to today, where everybody just asks if their fucking favorite cameo is going to show up, and if it doesn't happen, it's bad? Could that have made that culture maybe?
I feel like what we've seen with streaming services such as Disney Plus, right? And if they've been like, oh, we can just make a bunch of the budget, take that the budget of a film like a Marvel movie, or right, 150 million, say 150 million, and we can make 8 episodes of content with that same budget,
right?
You know, and we can put out 4 of these on there. And then with that money, we're gonna they didn't see as something like to build fan bases or to get something that goes over here that funds the movies or the movies fund. It was just a way to milk the cow. And now, even if you had a responsible way of doing it, people are just gonna see it as, oh, so I have to see the streaming service to understand what goes on into the movies, which is really weird from the fan base because, I'm sure as you know, fans would be like, how come the games aren't reflected in the movies and they don't use more of the storylines from the Knights of the Old Republic and the Jedi Fallen Orders in the films? And you're like, if you did that, you'd be complaining that you have to play a 70-hour fucking video game to understand what's going on. And if they remade it, they'd be even more mad because they cut shit out when they had 100 hours worth of content.
Or they just changed any of it. Like one change.
Right. Can you think Disney could just play Knights of the Old Republic and stream it live out in the
on Disney Plus? On Disney Plus?
Honestly, from what I gather, people would just want to see the entirety of that game in like fully CGI, like a
100 hours.
Trailers. Yeah, they want to see that as like either a film series or a show, but also they'd want to see that as like just the game as well, just with the best graphics completely untouched. But like, people aren't gonna want to play that. Like, other than the die-hard fans that specifically want that. That's why they're remaking it and changing it for modern audiences, which people assume is gonna make it woke, and they're very worried about that. That's their big concern.
But I will say that like 3-hour supercut of Fallen Order is pretty watchable.
Yeah, if you have no interest in
games,
it's like a film. It's it's just a good adventure. It's a good Star Wars.
Yeah,
adventure.
I'm up for a good 3-hour science fiction film set up on a planet far away, which features aliens that got fantastical powers that speak to biological, entities that help them fight a technological army. I'm all for it. But Star Wars fans fucking hate long movies, right? Were they like, these are too long? No.
No,
They
they all
like it?
complain that every episode is only 40, that the 40-minute long
the
show
movies.
is only 40 minutes.
No, I remember
they
Rise
complain
of
about props
Skywalker.
as well.
People,
Yeah.
people complaining this is going to be too short. Like before,
Yeah, they wanted it to be
knew
3
anything.
hours. Yeah.
We wanted more of that. Like
I did.
Yeah, I think it
I
could have benefited from 30 minutes. But
Yeah.
You're a very kind person, as a true. I hope to one day to grow up to be like him. You know, he's nice.
Going back to Boyega, do you think that he's going to have a supporting role in this as well? Because he's been very vocal about how they mistreated his character throughout the sequel trilogy, and he's obviously made the joke before, like, you're not going to Disney Plus me, and things seem to have smoothed over a little bit now. But surely, like, if he is coming back, they would have written him a good juicy role. Like
I would,
like in everything. He
yeah.
always wants to be the leading man in everything he's in. Like, I doubt he'll be the lead in this, but will he take a more prominent role throughout it?
So up front, when he was saying, and when he says that stuff, and when he said it, like he was like sort of like bitching about where his character had gone, and that it wasn't this thing that it became. And then I think, though, he's playing it. I think he's playing it right for the industry. I think he's this like the thing that Harrison Ford did. And then Harrison Ford keeps fucking coming back and doing stuff for Lucasfilm and Disney. You know, I think he's doing the same exact thing where you make it sound like that. You won't do it. And then, of course, you will. And I mean,
Harrison took like however many years between. This has only been 4 or 5 years for Boyega.
But he only took that many years between because there was nothing offered. There was nothing, like George Lucas didn't go and make a Han Solo thing. But I think if George Lucas had made Episode 7 in 1998, Harrison would have been back. He was back.
But they promised Harrison they would kill him in Force Awakens, which is one of his like the things he wanted.
Also, a little bit of mythology there too, I think, personally. But I think he wanted. Yeah.
Saying with Boyega was one of his biggest complaints was how Finn was written and treated.
Because
they must have assurances from him.
Well, the Harrison Ford thing almost goes like he has suicidal ideation for Han Solo, which wasn't the case. He wanted to die as Han Solo in Return of the Jedi because he had nothing to fucking do. And he was like, if I have no point in this movie, why did you unfreeze me? Why am I, you know what I mean? That's like where he was coming at. If they had given him something to do, he wouldn't have been just like, fucking kill me. But it became kind of the joke. And then it was the one where they were going to kill him. And so it all just kind of like worked out into the PR side of things. Now with him though, I don't think he comes back without having, I mean, I would be surprised if he came back in this film personally. Let's just take the Roca scoop off the table. Okay. Let's just say like, we don't know if it's true or that didn't happen. We're just speculating. I would have speculated without this report that he wouldn't be back in this film and that there would be some kind of hint and that the one that he does come back in, he's going to get some kind of executive producer credit on. And he's going to like really work to get that.
It's a bit confusing for me because it was only like about 2 weeks ago. Well, probably a little bit longer because it was just before Celebration. He did an interview and it was like the headline was like, John Boyega is glad to just be going back to being a fan with Star Wars. And he says like, I'm just glad I can watch Obi-Wan Kenobi and Mando on Disney Plus and play Battlefront now without having to be involved with, worrying about fans' expectations and stuff like that. But he also didn't like where Finn went, but then he also said he'd come back if JJ is doing it.
Right.
Like he was always praising JJ.
He'll come back if there's money. You know who also said that? He's just being nice. Remember when John Carter and Mars came out and the Taylor Kish was like, I'm only going to come back if they bring back Andrew Stanton, the director, and they asked Andrew Stanton that quote, and he was like, he's very sweet. He's being very sweet. Like, if they want him back, he's contractually, they'll have, he'll pay. Like, he's just being nice. Like JJ, he'll come back if they pay him and they agree to give him something decent to do, like as they probably should have originally. Just the idea of a stormtrooper that fucking flips, but they didn't really make him a stormtrooper. They made him a janitor who then was a stormtrooper for 2 seconds.
No, they didn't do that. If you watch the movie and
I watched the movie.
You remember we talk about the movie more than we watch it. And like in the movie, he's a fucking stormtrooper. He's like an elite stormtrooper with Captain Phasma. He's not a fucking janitor.
They take it back.
No, Rob. At one point in his career, he had to clean the toilet. You were in the military. Were you always at your post? Did you? I mean, people sometimes start cleaning toilets and then become the general of the New Republic. That's his art.
Comics, he's one of the baton troopers, and his friend is the guy that he kills with the lightsaber on the.
Traitor guy.
That's why he calls him traitor. Yeah, because it's his friend.
Yeah, and but that's the thing. Is like that point sticks out to people, but when we see him, like if he was a fucking
out because the acting's so fucking weird compared to the rest of the movie.
If he was a janitor, and that was solely his role in the First Order, he would not have been landing on Captain Phasma in Kylo Ren to get the map to Luke Skywalker from the Church of the Force. He would have been.
If they had actually done more with the idea of a guy who was a fucking horrific soldier who just finally cracked and had a sense of humanity about him, and actually played into that, he would have had more to then go and grow too, but didn't really happen. Next movie, he's still running. I mean, this is the problem too with my hope with this film is that it's so good we can stop talking about what the films weren't. Because now we're stuck in an endless loop that last film is no resolution to this story. It doesn't actually help with any of the problems people had with it, and it only brought more fucking issues up for folks who were bummed out. So like and then that's why, like, when you put up the, hey, Rey's coming back yesterday, some people are like, oh shit, this again. And I'm like, that could be a great character. No offense. My uncles fucking hated that Star Trek movie that came out in like 77, 79 around, that first one.
Mm-hmm.
They thought it was a complete waste. And I remember one of my earliest visual memories was them coming back from the theaters like, Star Trek's back, Star Trek. When Star Trek 2 came out.
That whole attitude that more means it's even going to get worse for you is just like, fuck off and don't pay attention to it. You fucking loser. Just fuck off and go. If you're gonna follow stuff, I know a lot of them.
They promised me they weren't going to go see Avatar. I was told no, and in the pandemic it would be an empty theater.
No, but you know what's weird about? I mean, Avatar's fucking weird, dude, because nobody fucking like there's no Avatar culture. It's weird that it's as big as it is, and there's just no fucking culture. It's so strange. I don't know what that is. I don't know why that is. Like, fucking Ant-Man has a culture around him. But fucking these blue fuckers that make billions of dollars, nobody's fucking talking about it. Like, it's not like a thing. It's weird.
That's why people think Disney paid us all to go and watch it.
Yeah. I wish.
Could they have just... Can I have some of that money, Jason?
Yeah.
I still have to buy my own pizza around here.
No, I think it would be. I wish that culture was there. We can talk about Avatar, and you can tell me what's going on. I'd just be like, I can be the dumb guy who's like, what? Why?
We'd all be flying out to Japan Celebration.
Yeah,
I've been paid this year to go and watch Avatar. I'm going tomorrow. I've been paid again to go and see it to bump up the box office. I've been paid to go to Celebration. I'm loving it.
Our podcast will be called "What in Avatar Nation?" No, okay, that's my idea.
I thought that our podcast was going to be called Avatalk.
Avatar.
The whole
okay. Yeah. And then the YouTube show is "What in Avatar Nation?" Robert St. Clair says it was FN 2187's first mission when he cracks. Finn tells Rey that when he tells her his true backstory. Yeah.
I told you he wasn't really a guy committing atrocities, and then he cracked. The first time he goes out, he was shocked by what he's really doing.
Well,
the more interesting story to me is a guy who's got real PTSD, got real regret. I mean, we just came out of. We didn't come out of. We just gone through almost 20 years.
You're not going to get
imperial invasion. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, but you were never.
Lucas, I feel like
maybe they shouldn't have just.
Gilroy would have done
it. No, that's what I'm trying to tell you. is if Gilroy had done it, the movie wouldn't have made $1 billion. It would have made.
I don't know. He wrote the
million.
Bourne Identity films. I don't want to hear shit about that. You know.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I know with the Star Wars movies, I love his work. It's not a lick on his work, but
if
it's
Paul
just that,
Greengrass and Gilroy had come together for The Force Awakens, it would have made the money it made. Like,
yeah. Well, I mean, people are mad about what Ryan Johnson did with Luke. Imagine what Gilroy would have done with Luke. They would have fucking
Paul
cried even
Greengrass
more.
would have been directing. I don't
You
think he
know?
would have let Tony. You know. I don't know.
But-
I mean, his film, the film he did direct, did make $1 billion though. So
Mhm.
you know, like,
Oh yeah, but
Star
I mean
Wars
that,
film.
and it killed them all.
Made a start.
And people are all
Yeah.
crying because they fucking
People
killed
are
them all.
happy about it.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
all of those movies
They
killed them
earned
all.
that death, but they
But-
earned that death.
Mhm.
They earned that death, as
Well,
opposed to
I think it was a mistake in retrospect, actually, on that one. I think it was the right thing to kill Han, Luke, and Leia because they're fucking old and we need to move on. But I also think that, like, Andor having lived or Jin having lived would have been a good idea, considering the film made $1 billion and then the faucet was turned off. You know,
they can
for
all be
continuing
cloned.
films.
Gideon will just clone everyone, but they'll have force powers this time.
Well, they won't have mustaches. That's the difference. They won't have mustaches.
Oh, you
No,
could
but-
not stop that.
but
Pedro Pascal. Oh, sorry.
but
sorry.
you made a
goddamn.
you made a I think the point that you made though, Rob, is what makes me is that it like there was no resolution for people who
Correct.
saw episode 9 on most of this. And that's why if you're John Boyega and if you are a Star Wars fan, if you do care about your character, which I believe he does, then why would he not want to come back and do something better with it? Why would he not want to elevate it to a higher degree? Just like it doesn't mean it'll succeed, but it's like Ewan McGregor and the Kenobi series. Why did he want to come back? Because I think he saw the opportunity to do something that was maybe more accepted or maybe more loved than what he participated in, even though he liked it and believed in it. And so,
I
like,
can see John thinking like that. Like, yeah, people on my side, like, they want Finn be a Jedi, whatever. Oh, I'm getting that. Okay, I'll do that. And like, he's close with Daisy and stuff like that. And he did say like, if Daisy comes back, I'll do it. Like, that was not long after he said it wouldn't. Like, he's done with it. Like, you know, it's just one of those things. I think it will come back. I'm surprised it would be like this first film, I suppose, but it also makes sense given how.
Let's be
close
honest.
men were.
It's more likely. It's most like there's a real good chance this film will just feel like the fourth film in that trilogy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
like the actual epilogue that you kind of wanted the series to have, more than the start of something new. More like kind of like a backdoor pilot in a way, right? Puts in the new characters, we kind of resolve the other stuff, and then maybe they'll make future cameos down the way. But you know, like it's more of a baton handing kind of.
well,
deal.
because like if you extrapolate things out from that film 15 years, then you know you could go a lot of ways. Like for all we know, fucking Poe Dameron's living on a houseboat, having gained 50 pounds, drinking space beers, and life has been shit. Or he might be the fucking, like, you know, the chancellor of the New Republic, or the fucking general, or, you know, the supreme commander of the Space Force, some bullshit like that. And like, so like there's places that you could take these roles where they could come back in and they could play into films and other stuff that will go on. And it's just been clear. I mean, that the trilogy format is ultimately like stupid. It's just not, it's like, a story is will need to go where it's going to need to go. And just because one set of films, you know, 40 years ago now, really like came in at what 3 was a good little story arc for it. It didn't apply to the prequels. The prequels, I mean, Kenobi proves that the prequels didn't need to be 3 films either. That was it was a trilogy. You know, it should have just been a series.
Imagine if Warner Brothers had gone out and said, "Hey, that Batman Forever is the 3rd film in our trilogy. It's complete.
Yeah.
Batman trilogy.
Batman's done.
Batman Returns, Batman Forever. That's
It's
your
done.
trilogy.
Yeah.
You know? That'd
Or if
feel
we got-
real complete.
we
Whole
got
new actor.
Yeah,
like,
Ant-Man 1, 2, and the
film.
Avengers. It's done. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of with today's marketplace for how people like to watch serialized content. Just don't fucking do it. Just, you know what I mean? Just make sure that every adventure is self-contained enough that if it happens to be the last one, it's okay, you know, more or less. And I think that's like the way to go. I don't think I was going to say Boyega had like a good year. Overall, like in the last year for him, it's been not bad. He's been in some good stuff. He's had a good year, but I also don't think he's fucking, it's raining down cash with him.
No,
The quote that Asatru said about him just from a few weeks ago, Daisy Ridley said the same fucking thing, like around the same,
Daisy,
not far off from that. It's like,
Daisy was complaining that she wasn't getting any like offers. So it was no surprise that like just months after she said that, she was willing to go back to Star Wars.
Right.
If you remember,
to be fair, she always even not just after 9, she was like, "Oh yeah, like I'm like." She always has said like she'd always do it regardless. Like unlike Oscar and John, she was like, "Yeah," like I think she literally said like a week after it came out, "Yeah, I'm gonna always be Rey, and I'll maybe one day sort of thing." So,
but I guarantee if her career wasn't. If her career took another turn, if it went in a Harrison Ford direction,
if we were on Orient Express Part 4,
if she wouldn't be as willing to come back currently. Like I think, like the rest of them did, like Harrison and that, like they came back decades later.
Yeah,
they wanted to do other things. Most actors want to do other things. They wanted to stretch their legs. Coming back to this franchise like within 5 years, that's a short amount of time. And somebody like Boyega, like, he's had a bit more success than Ridley has. Like, he's had projects come out that critically acclaimed, but they've made no money. Nobody really saw them, like Breaking. He's had movies go straight to VOD, which nobody liked, such as Naked Singularity. He's had a better run than Daisy, but he also isn't in a big position of strength. Like, he's going back to do Attack of the Block. He's got a Netflix movie coming out this year. But I think he wouldn't be coming back.
Is that the Tyrone, the clone? They cloned Tyrone movie?
Tyrone.
Yeah,
Jamie Foxx and
I love the title. Paris. So good.
Yeah, and I think they must have given him assurances that hey, like we're going to do you right. We're going to give you this size role. All this is going to happen for you. Obviously, he's going to get a truckload of money as well, which always helps. But,
a Tonka truck, like a life-size Tonka. He gets a full. It's in the contract. They have to wheel it over with a big bow. Yeah.
So, like you were talking about, like these actors like Ewan coming back to have something to prove, and they have respect. Like John, I think, is one of those people. Yeah. He would not be coming back to this if he didn't have assurances that his character would be done right for once.
You go against everything he's said, like that. That he disagreed on. Like the thing is, people only take like the juicy lines and make it sound worse than what. Like if you actually watch what he was saying, like he was always like bit playful and stuff like that. Like it was like you just read the words, it sounds like he's like scathing Lucasfilm and whatnot, but he was like having a joke. Like he was waving around like his gun that he took from set and like showing his merchandise off. He was like, "Oh, playing Battlefront." Like it's not like he hates how like people actually say it does, but
also like having a bit of time away, like Oscar, like at the time, you remember, like he in one of those interviews, I think it was with Collider, he was asked if he would do a Disney Plus series, if what would it take for him to return. And he like said nope straight away. And then later on, he said he'd only come back if he needed to buy another house, right? Like he's in.
And then more recently, he says if the other two come back, exactly. I'll do it.
And so what you're saying is Disney's going to burn his house down,
right? Yeah. So he's back in the Disney wheelhouse, isn't he?
Tigers in the back.
He's doing
some sticks.
So did you just do the campfire bit? Hold on. Did you just do the campfire sticks from showing your age?
I wasn't a Boy Scout. I think that's what they do. I went to Boy Scouts twice. That shit was fucking boring, and I quit. Were you still saying something, Bespin? Sorry.
No, it doesn't matter. It was just like there's enough time has passed. They've gone through the production, like they had a grueling schedule to go through those 3 films as quickly as they did.
Right.
You probably want to be done for a little while, and now that years have passed, Oscar's way more open to doing franchise, because it was an interview he was doing when he was promoting the Card Counter. He was saying that he likes to make smaller movies, and that's where he wants his focus to be. But just a year later, he's in Moon Knight, like $150 million TV series for Disney Plus.
Right.
Where he's playing multiple versions of himself.
And it was just before, a couple of years before, he was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to do a Disney Plus show. I'm not going to come back as Poe." Like he's done, and now he's open to it. But John Boyega is probably open to it. Daisy, she's back. So there's enough time that's gone by, and I think that again with Boyega, he'll have assurances. I don't know if we'll see Oscar back. You assume he would probably, and people are not going to like this movie. Like the response I had yesterday when I posted the article was mostly positive. It was from fans of the sequel trilogy, and most of the comments was "Get this man a lightsaber," which with the Chadwick Boseman meme, and so the fans of the sequel trilogy will be happy with it. The people who dislike the trilogy and make it the whole personality, they aren't going to be happy, and they'll complain and bitch the entire way.
Sure.
Like, nothing will ever make them happy. So
no, nothing will ever make them. This could be like one of the best written, most well-directed Star Wars movies we've ever had, and they will not care. They still want Zack Snyder's Star Wars, which they'll get later this year. But that's what they want. Like all those bros who are like, I want it to be dark, I want it to be all this like shit. They
18 plus rated, Luke killing people. That's all that. Oh, Starkiller canon. Like it's just that they only need a few things.
BVS and Man of Steel. BVS and Man of Steel weren't 18 plus rated.
Yeah, but what if it was like a General Grievous series?
Yeah, they want that. They want that. They want to see his origin story.
Well, you got an episode of Mando season 3 with a General Grievous. Close enough. Like,
don't cock tease me, Favreau. Anyways, yeah. I think that in terms of just like career shit, just the career side of it. When you've done Star Wars, but then you need a blockbuster, all you could really go to is Marvel. I mean, Marvel or another superhero, like a DC thing. That's that's the only real things on the table. Like when you see them try to do original stuff, like what was that one that what's his name just tried to do 25 BC or whatever, the one with the dinosaurs in space, like 65, yeah, BC. Like nobody fucking it doesn't work.
Yeah,
like,
but I don't think they need to jump from a franchise to a franchise. Like I think they can find success in other areas. Like he's a shithead, but Shia LaBeouf, like he went from Transformers to doing all these smaller independent movies, and he got a lot of respect as an actor.
I'm not. No, I'm saying when you need that big money, those the independent, like sort of high concept films. I don't mean independent. I mean just like high concept films. That they're just not really going to pay in the current like Hollywood. They're not going to pay you. So if you want to get the big money, you have to have one of those. So it's like the Ben Affleck book of one for them, one for me kind of thing. It's like they kind of have to do something like that at some points. And some of the act like Oscar Isaac's like in his 40s already. He wasn't cast when he was 20 like the other ones. So like that the guy has like I think would have a different perspective on money than Daisy Ridley and John Boyega, for instance.
Yeah, if you look at Ridley's career, like straight out of Rise of Skywalker, she was obviously complaining that she thought she'd be getting calls and emails like constantly about roles because she was in one of the biggest franchises of all time, and I think she's pretty good in the movies. Like I know people want to bash her, but I think she is talented. And she wasn't getting anything. Like she was doing podcasts and like she did that game with Willem Dafoe. I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that.
She was in Peter Rabbit.
She did voice work in Peter Rabbit. Like with Chaos Walking was shot.
Was the show called Friend or Dafoe? What was it? What was the show? What was the game show called?
But she shot Chaos Walking before Tross even came out, and obviously that came out later and bombed. But she did need a leg up. I always wanted her to go and do something at Marvel. They're making a Spider-Woman movie. I thought she'd be a pretty like perfect Jessica.
Sony's making a Spider-Woman movie.
Sony's making a
big difference. Big difference.
There's apparently
no, I was shocked. Bespin, I was shocked she wasn't in one of the Knives Out films. I thought that would have been like one of those ensemble pieces. Rian Johnson. I don't know. I was kind of shocked that she was never involved in any of that.
Yeah, and like she's got a movie coming out this year called Sometimes I Think About Dying. I think her husband might have directed it or wrote it.
No, they've made a film together. They've made a film recently. Like they've shot it in London together. But this is like different. Like that actually, she got like really good reviews for acting in that. That's just been bought. It's gonna be released this year.
Yeah, it's gonna be released this year. She's got the swimming one that's coming out this year as well. I think.
Disney, yeah, that's Disney. That's
The
through
Disney
Disney
one.
Plus,
Yeah, it's the
I,
Pirates of the Caribbean. Right as-
I got into a test screening of that, and I was like, I can't. No, I'm not gonna go.
like, all their careers,
That's the one
like
you
Adam,
get.
Adam Driver. Like, there's obviously a lot of rumors at the moment that he's gonna be Reed Richards in Fantastic Four. Like, I think that's good casting.
Yeah.
I agree with it. But he doesn't necessarily need it. Like, he's supposedly going to do the Heat sequel. He's got a bunch of other projects lined up. He's got Ferrari coming out this year. Like, he's done his big franchise stuff, and he's done smaller movies. He's done mid-budget movies, wherever. He doesn't need to go and do a franchise project this close after Star Wars. But I think somebody like Ridley does. I think she needs a franchise, and she probably does need Star Wars more than.
But it hasn't he kind of been associated with a lot of movies that weren't really profitable now? Like, isn't he kind of starting?
He got an Oscar nomination. Oscar House of Gucci was a big deal for that.
House of Gucci made 150 million. Like, it was profitable.
Yeah,
and it won awards.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, whether you deserve, yes and no. I mean, if anyone's had the biggest bombs to really come from John Boyega, really, I mean, Pacific Rim was a huge, colossal, big budget, legendary pictures, worldwide release, tentpole, 4-quadrant like film that just crashed. So, like, if anyone's kind of like shot for the stars and whiffed a few, he's kind of higher up on that list. But I mean, he had good supporting role in like the Witch King, the Queen King, whatever. Fucking.
Oh, the Woman King.
I'm brain farting. The Woman King. Yeah, I'm brain farting. That film, man. Sorry. Hey guys, come on, man! I can't keep all the fucking info in my head.
I thought you were John Boyega expert.
Just don't. And I just go back to, I think the performance Daisy gave in the 3 films is quite good, but we all know, like, I mean, Jason, she got shaky there with JJ on the first film, and I have to wonder, acting wise, like, they brought it up even, and so I just wonder how much range as an actress does she have? I mean, there's got to be endless amounts. There's got to be some studio out there who's like, I don't care if you didn't like a fucking Star Wars movie. We're going to be able to say the Star Wars person's in this film. I mean, what's holding that back? Like, nothing.
But look at that position now in 3 trilogies: Hayden Christensen, Mark Hamill, and Daisy Ridley. I mean, when you're that person, it's hard to not be that. It's hard to not see that person in whatever they do, no matter what. And the other people get off a little bit easier for whatever. It almost doesn't make sense, but I mean, we got 3 for 3 on that right now.
That's how I see it. Like, to me, they're Luke, Rey, and Anakin. Like,
yeah,
but they're like the best characters, my favorite characters. So it's just how it is.
Yeah, it's like do you want Luke Skywalker to play this character? That's how it ends up being looked at. And like a couple of, like, some people like Adam Driver and Harrison Ford, they're able to kind of get around that. And then I think Oscar's kind of in a good place, because I don't think, like, he was really huge in that, but he was just like right under he never was like as up front in the marketing and the toys and the stuff as the others. So he just kind of feels like he's definitely know him, and he's definitely there, but he doesn't feel like he was as crammed down your throat as the other people.
I also think it's like go on, Bespin.
I was gonna say, I think there's levels to this as well, in terms of like ability and talent. Oscar Isaac and Adam Driver, in my opinion, are levels above Boyega and Ridley. And the same thing about the prequels. Portman and McGregor, again, way above Hayden. I know he was fantastic in Shattered Glass, but yeah, and again, go back to even the original trilogy, Harrison, he's levels above Mark and Carrie.
I think Hayden had his confidence broken with Attack of the Clones, because when you look at Life as a House and Class, he's great, and it's He also had that the Looper didn't do his representation much favors. It was considered a pretty big bomb for that summer. It was fun,
but with Ridley, she hasn't had any big bombs. So I just go back to, okay, who's her representation?
And it wasn't Looper, it was Jumper. Was it Jumper?
Jumper.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, sorry, I always get those two goofed up.
Yeah, fair enough.
So it's the colors of the words, Jason. It's in my head.
Well, and then Looper is the Ryan Johnson one.
Johnson.
It's all Star Wars.
So
to me.
Thanks for clarifying that, Jason. But no, so Ridley's no, I mean it. Thank you. I know. Thanks for clarifying.
Thank you.
I know. I have that effect. But her representation, her agent's Hilda Queeley, and Hilda Queeley, I mean, she reps Kate Blanchett, Kate Winslet, Penelope Cruz, Lupita Nyong'o. I mean, either if she needs to fire her agent if she's not getting anything.
That's a good question, right? You just said it on accident. Lupita, Maz Kanata. You think she might be a part of this whole thing? She had the Force. She was there at the end.
I'd like that because she wasn't used enough later on. Like, she had a great part in Force Awakens. Last Jedi was like, okay, maybe she just didn't fit in. She was just that hologram. But then, like, The Rise of Skywalker, she came back, but not enough than I thought.
But she wasn't Carrie Fisher, so they wanted the Carrie Fisher. She really just should have done the whole Carrie thing. Like, realistically,
Jason, not for nothing,
the best film.
Not for nothing. But Felonius was telling me last night that Maz Kanata and Pelimoto want to train a Wookiee. You know?
Yeah.
I was like, I didn't want to know that, but since it's in my head now it's in yours.
I know. He texted me. He's like, "What do you?" I got this text. It's like, "What do you think about Jawa fluffers?" And I was like, "What?" And I went back to sleep.
They got a thing for fur, those two. You know?
Yeah, no, but I mean that would be, you know, in terms of like returning cast members, I would honestly see if Rey's a Jedi doing the Jedi Order thing, and she's going there, like, you know, and like with the way that movie, there's all this implication. Doesn't mean that they have to pick it up though. But there was always the implication, like up front, like in Force Awakens. Well, actually, I would even say before that, the concept art that I had, it was like Maz Kanata was a part of this stuff. Maz Kanata was the one who stole the Skywalker lightsaber from Kylo Ren when he attacked the fucking Jedi Temple originally. Like, that's how they originally were going to make that. And like there was all this stuff where she was linked to it, and it was like her original like kind of concept was she was this pirate who didn't want to go with the Force stuff necessarily, but had it all there and was always sort of a friend adjacent to them. And she kind of ends up that in the end, especially more in episode 9, because in episode 8, she's fucking not there because you don't need her because you got Luke Skywalker coming back. It's like, it was weird that they even made her in certain ways. Like, they kind of didn't need her since they were doing that thing with Luke. There should have been like almost an open hole. And how do we do this? We don't know what we're doing. And then when they get to Luke, then Luke becomes the sort of seals that. But in the end, she kind of was there to be this Yoda / Luke. And then she kind of just fucks off and then comes back after Carrie Fisher's gone. And then sort of like fills in the parts that they couldn't make Carrie do in 9. But she has the Force. Does she end up going, finally, I believe in this bitch, I'm going to team up with her. All these fuckers from the past, they suck dicks, but she's fucking cool. They need a good villain. I'm with her.
I'm telling you right now, these movies, we're all talking about who's the lead, who's the antagonist. This needs a real compelling foil. You know, otherwise, if it's a movie about just believing in yourself for another 2 hours,
I love that.
It's just not enough, man. You know, you need Space Johnny out there going, put her in a body bag. You know, you need that guy.
Like think about like Eat, Pray, Love, but Star Wars is like the Force, friends, faith. What do you think about calling it Force, friends, faith? Force is female. Like, that's the tagline.
I was going to make a joke about one of our friends because of 3 things you've just said. It all relates to them. I cannot.
I can hear Santa yelling from Gatlinburg. You know?
It's not Santa.
Yeah.
It's a man who really loves Friends, you know?
God, Friends. Fuck that show. But anyways, yeah. So like you know, I kind of predict. I think a couple of weeks ago I said, watch, the next thing is going to be that John Boyega's in it. That's going to be the next, whether it's real or not. That's going to be the next thing.
I think no matter what, he's had conversations with Lucasfilm about it. So no matter what, I think Roka is right that he probably has had a conversation with Kathy and the team behind this movie. Whether he does come back or not, that's a different thing. Like, obviously, there's probably a negotiation process that has to happen anyway. I think if it was signed and sealed, he would have been there with Daisy. You know, like, these are your 2 Jedi returning. Because they made a big deal on stage about who's going to be leading that Jedi Order. And the Jedi Order is apparently in disarray, and she's going to be learning from the books and taking a Luke Skywalker like sort of
So
figure.
that quote is kind of been like overlooked. The fact that Kathy said the Jedi Order is in disarray.
Mm-hmm.
Now, does that maybe imply a split, as in Rey and Finn don't agree and they go their own ways? Like you know what I'm saying?
I think she said something along the lines of what it means to be a Jedi in this galaxy now. Is there any need for the Jedi? And stuff like that, and like discovering Force users.
Yeah.
I think she says it's almost seen as like a myth.
Mm. Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe part of the movie is just a quest to find Force users. Like they said, she's going to be pulling from the books, from the Jedi text. So it's not going to be this. I don't think it's going to be this new Jedi Order, like in the terms of like people want to. I don't know. They don't want them to be dogmatic and whatever. She's following the dogmatic ways of the Jedi, it seems.
Yeah, she's reading the Force Bible.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, people forget her teacher was Luke. Like, she's following what Luke did. Following what Luke continued.
No, that was the whole thing. Is Luke wanted to burn the books at one point. He was down with letting them go. You know what I mean? And then he was like, no. It was going back and forth, but at the end of it, Luke does embrace who he was and who he should be, and the ideals and stuff. Luke comes full circle.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say he was her teacher. Like,
no, he's her teacher. He gives her lessons.
Yeah,
he does.
Yeah, he smacked her on the head a couple times.
And that's the message.
Yeah, and wax on, wax off, taught a motherfucker karate, dude. What do you want? I don't know.
No. He actually took him. Hey, Danielson went to the beach and learned how to drive a car. I didn't see her drive one fucking car.
took his car out of the ocean and let her drive it down to the fight. Remember?
Yeah, I was groaning the whole fucking time. Yeah,
they are pushing that message that like Luke is her teacher and she's learning from Luke. Luke's not going to be in the movie or whatever, but she did say that his presence and his influence on Rey will be present throughout. So I guess that means she's going to act like the Luke Skywalker we had in Rise of Skywalker more than the one we had in The Last Jedi. It's going to be this typical Jedi we've all known.
Well, I think Mark will come back too, because he's been back on Mando. He's not going to come back to be Luke Skywalker in the film as the Ghost. I think he'll do I think Alec Guinness did the Ghost twice. I think he'll do the Ghost twice. I think he'll justify it to himself that way.
Welcome to Jedi Charter School. Never mind that the headmaster hears voices from her dead instructor. She's going to tell you she's talking to him all the time. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
If you, in case of insurrection, read the book. But don't read page 69 because it just says Palpatine was here. I don't know. It was kind of like erased out. Like,
it's like
ACDC.
If you ever want to kill your family with the Force, the answer is always just don't do it. Don't even think about it. Just put it in the back of your head. Move on. But yeah, I mean, it's one of the I guess the question that or we don't know what the tone of the movie is. We have these little hints, but we don't really know what the tone's going to feel like at the moment. Whenever I hear like Chinoy's doing it, I start to think of it like looking more like documentary style, but then I don't really know if that really sounds like the kind of movie that they're doing necessarily. And when I look at her documentaries, there's a lot of stuff about like women who are fighting to educate others and themselves in a system that doesn't want them to. And I think that might be kind of the link here thematically, without knowing anything, but between what she's done before and what this story sounds like.
Not writing it.
Mm-hmm. No, she's not writing it, but it's a, and the documentaries, she's not really supposedly not writing them. She's like observing them and looking for these themes. So that's why I see getting a documentary filmmaker with her line of work doing a movie. I would have to think that the actual through line isn't fucking Ms. Marvel. It's that theme. And so there's a chance that she starts to see, or that the story is about some people who don't want the Jedi to be there, some people who do, why and she wants it. And maybe she has to fight to have it exist in that republic or whatever it happens to be.
My
And then the bad guys are,
my
Mhm.
my fear, Jason, right?
Right.
The little I'm that guy in the art studio who goes, well, let's put a pin in this idea. I just want to say I said it, right? The fear is that on paper they're thinking it's something like Rey's a bit dogmatic and maybe her students don't feel they should adhere to that kind of thing, right? Given
Right.
the SOC's Chonoi's previous work. And then somewhere in an edit they go, it's making Rey look bad, and then they reshoot and fix it, and then you end up with this weird half and half film that doesn't feel like they're saying something. Because it seems that Chinoy is used to saying things with her works, right? Very clearly making a statement. And Lucasfilm has been very, very consistent in doing the exact opposite overall. You know, very few of their projects say something very specific about the human condition, and or is the outlier to that. You know,
Well,
like,
and it's just saying something about revolution more than
yeah, but I mean, like, when you're dealing with honor killings and people who are a society that's being held back by, you know, thousands of, you know, hundreds of years of archaic tradition, you know, like that's saying something, you
like
know.
if I'm Chinoy though, and I want to take this role or this position on, like, does she come at it from a perspective of, I want to make a mythic just film fun that's a role model for the people who are going through this real life really terrible thing, but somebody who is like, you know what I mean, who sees it, who's like in that same. Now I obviously don't know if like women in that society, like in Pakistan, where, you know, how strict it is and some of that shit, if they could even see this movie. But in theory, if they did, would this be a movie that inspired them to do what they need to do in real life? Like, I kind of think that's where she would be coming at this from. Maybe.
Right. I'm just wondering, but studios
yeah.
tend to when it's already assembled and they're in the editing room, they tend to get antsy about that stuff. If they want a big summer fun, you know, or big family. That's why I said it was 50-50 with me on Avatar 2, whether audiences would react positively or negatively to the whale hunt. You know, I was like, that is something that I guarantee you, if it weren't James Cameron making, the studio would have cut that shit right the fuck out. You know, they just would have been like, they're hunting and the whale just had a traumatic experience and then he gets his revenge because of it. But they would never let you experience it firsthand as if you were committing the fucking atrocity. Like, that is something that Cameron got away with.
It would have been reduced to a simpler pitch of boys and befriends an alien whale.
And they say they're hunted, but you never see it. You know what I mean? You hear about it in his past.
Or
you know,
you start with it and he's injured. He's like, oh, my little fin hurts.
Yeah, that they would have explained it. It just would have been something they told you. In the same way, you know, it's not the same thing, but in a lot of ways where Favreau's telling you Bo-Katan's past with Moff Gideon versus you actually experiencing this stuff, you know.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was just saying that's my fear, is that I just hope that whatever Chinoy wants to do as a director, that comes through in the final edit, you know, good or bad. Like, I just want to see, because there has to be something meaning. She's not. They didn't pick up someone who's like, I love visual effects, I want to make a visual effect movie. I made some commercials, visual effects time. You know, like, it's not.
Yeah,
you know, it's not that kind of person.
Because if it's about starting if you want to break it down to its human essence, it sounds like it would be a story about somebody who wants to run a school, someone who wants to teach, and someone who wants to pass on important knowledge to the people who need it. And once again, that's what her documentaries are about. So my whole perspective might be completely colored by the fact that I watched a couple of them, but that's where I see this as making sense. And Jonesy, thank you for becoming a channel member. Super appreciate it. And Aria gave us some Donkey King Kong bucks, 20 Donkey King Kong bucks, and says, but who can become a serious enough villain? And like, that's where you get into it, like in that premise, or in the premise of her documentaries, it's usually like
the villain. Ochi of Bastoon's son. He wants revenge.
Oh,
That's
he's
it.
like, he's all. I have a dagger, a staff that if you put it in the right place shows you where the Death Star 1 is, and that's where Palpatine has
You
more
know,
secret stuff.
he's going to do what his father couldn't do. He couldn't capture Rey. He's going to go and enter life now. That's the through line.
But it depends on like what the tone of the film is. Like, is this film, is it going Saturday matinee at all, or is this like a real fucking like serious story about somebody starting a school? I don't know what to expect,
again,
and who could
like-
be a serious enough villain. Like, we didn't,
Yeah.
you don't have Snoke, you don't have Kylo Ren, you don't have any, you don't even have the General fucking Grievous until they make it up. So it's been 15 years, but think about like what's going on here. If Rey is for 15 years out and the Jedi Order is in disarray and it's not like a successful fucking established thing, then you have these fuckers that are just growing up with that have access to the Force, that are discovering it, finding it, and are using it to become pirates and raid stuff and become monsters. And I think that's and then you would have people who are just lost. And then the people who get angry and, like I said, like go down the acolyte path, we think, if that's what the story is, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of potential for what those could be. And once again, the villain could kind of be the new Republic. If they're like, we don't want you.
That's what I was going to say. Felonious D was telling me last night it's going to be the the premium Republic, and there's going to be a "Don't Say Rey" bill that they pass, and
don't
so
say Rey
that's
bill.
the conflict.
Don't say it.
Don't say Rey. Yeah.
One
Can't
thing
do it.
to look at in this movie as well is in the THR article that talked about it being December 25 and Filoni being December 26 is they said the Lucasfilm are kind of like nervous about the future, and they're going back to doing things that they consider pretty safe. They're not taking big risks. That's the Filoni movie, and that's with this movie. So I don't think they're going to take a big risk with this movie. Also, like, we keep referring to it as Rey building the school. Like, that's the perspective. Rey's not the lead character. Mm-hmm. Chances are we're going to be following two, because at the time it was supposed to be a male lead and a female lead, right? Chances are we're following those two, and the Rey stuff is happening in the background, and she eventually finds them. They're probably two Force users.
Yeah.
Right? So I think we're thinking too much about Rey building a school. I think that they don't have a lot to say publicly at the moment. Like this, they've just got a new writer to do a new draft. Like it's gonna I would say Lindelof, but Snyder talked about story changes happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like they probably don't have enough to say because he hasn't turned it in the draft. They said he'll turn it in next month, so they don't fully know what he's gonna write. They have the bare bones of Lindelof. They might have threw most of that out. They just took the base structure of it and the premise.
Well, see, like the way that I believe this is going to go, based off of just the way that went in the past, would be that they know what he's supposed to write.
Yeah, they know what he's supposed to write.
Yeah,
the execution, how he gets there.
Yeah,
like it's again, they weren't happy with whatever Lindelof gave him, and he'd been working on that thing for 2 years apparently, and. And again, Charmin isn't the one who was there from the beginning. She came in at least months and months after Lindelof already began, cracking the story and developing the project. Stephen Knight as well. Like I'm not a fan of any of his work.
Yeah, same.
And it's like, what is he going to bring? Is he being brought in as a safe pair of hands? Because again, going back to the article, THR claimed that they are nervous and they want. That's why they keep going back to original trilogy. Like sort of stuff, like whether it's on TV or whether it's, on screen now with Filoni's movie, the biggest risk they're taking is that Mangold film, which is the furthest out. And by the point that releases, Star Wars should be in a better place on the big screen. And obviously the small screen stuff is fine anyway. They don't need to worry about that. But in the culture, Star Wars should be in a good place and they can afford to take risks at that point.
It's also been quite a few years since the last film. Like it makes sense.
Yeah.
I know people want them to take risks, but it just makes more sense.
Yeah, and they've had so many projects come and go with various directors and writers that didn't happen, didn't pan out, whether it's they didn't meet their standards, their vision, or whether they just left to go and do something else. And again, what does Star Wars look like in the year it comes out? Like there's very few movies that cross $1 billion these days. You know, the Avatar is like a massive success. Spider-Man: No Way Home was. But what's the other like big hit from last year? Jurassic World, which was
Top Gun.
and Top Gun. Yeah, and the year before, I don't really remember outside of
It was just Spider-Man that hit $1 billion, and then before that was Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah, so you know, Marvel is struggling to hit $1 billion. I don't count Spider-Man because that's Sony. But obviously, Marvel involved. They helped write it. They upgrade it.
Yeah, it's more Marvel than Sony. I can tell you that.
Yeah, but Sony's the one who's making the most profit off of it, right?
Right.
Well, that's the deal. That's the deal they signed to get it back. But they creatively, Sony had very little to do with it. And if you want to see what a Sony creatively led Spider-Man looks like, go watch Morbius and the Venom films. That's a Sony product. Like,
so we don't know what. So we don't know what the box office looks like in that year either. We don't know what, like they might have that. All right, if this doesn't make $1 billion, then we might consider it a failure. You know, they don't know. They need something to come out and be safe. I don't think.
Well, what they need is they need Star Wars to do well overseas, Bespin, and it's primarily done its most money here. So they need it to do even better overseas than it has traditionally in the past.
When you say overseas, where do you mean?
I think
everywhere.
Well, I mean, like
altogether.
The
UK.
Yeah, like all together. Yeah. Just overall, the worldwide box office is not as high, generally speaking, or as high as they would like it. Compared to the American box.
Isn't it usually like around 50% now, at least for the sequels?
I don't know.
Like, if I think like Force Awakens made it like $1 billion something stateside and then like $1 billion worldwide. Something I think it's something.
The UK at least is very low. Like whenever I've seen box office numbers, it's like nothing. It's crazy. Like
but we're pretty like
tiny.
We're tiny.
We're tiny
like, in comparison. Like for it to be accessible worldwide, we need to be a success worldwide, not just in select.
And we don't know where the economy is going to be when this movie comes out too.
Yeah.
So like a lot of those things. Like here's the thing though, they shouldn't be thinking about $1 billion. The Batman didn't make $1 billion, but it won a lot of people over who were Batmaned out after those fucking Zack Snyder films. You know, whether you like Affleck or not, people were burnt the fuck out. Let's just be honest. So
fuck 'em.
People, it went out there. It got a lot of people excited. It made enough money to get going. They need to get brand excitement more than they need the immediate financial return. You get everyone excited, you're going to cash in on that second one. You know, if your whole thing is chasing the fucking dollar to appease everybody, you will not. You're never going to appease everyone. So like that is, you end up doing another Member Berries film. You know, like
is that why you save Finn? Is that why do you not put Finn in this one, and then you give Finn another movie, the movie after in the series?
But they said, right, that they're looking at it as a standalone movie, and if successful, they'll do a series of it. If this doesn't meet their expectations, like in terms of like critical and commercial, at least you righted the wrongs of Finn's character in this movie. Again, they are trying to play it safe. That's supposedly what they're doing. Like they want to come back with 2 safe movies, and arguably they both are, right? Like on paper, a Rey Jedi Order and a Mando movie, we'll just refer to it as that. I know it's crossover, but wherever. Like, they are safe bets. You know?
Right.
Like, if you came back out with a Mangold movie, that sounds good to, like, fans, but it's the biggest risk out of the 3.
Yeah.
Coming back with a new Jedi Order movie and coming back with a Filoni Mando crossover movie is safe. You know? If they're going to take any risks, especially risks that, like, you'd hope somebody like Charmaine takes based off of like her previous work, I think that comes down the line when they've established a foothold in the market again, like theatrically, and fans are for the most part back on their side, like with the theatrical releases. I don't think you take big risks with that first movie, and so talking about villains and stuff like I don't even think that's relevant at the moment. They are so far away from getting the draft from Stephen Knight and seeing where it goes after that. You know, there's a chance this movie doesn't even hit 2025. There's a chance this all goes to shit, like the writer's strike and delays in production. You know, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just
if the writer's strike. I mean, just based off of past trends, we could probably assume will be about 3 months, right?
Mhm.
But this one has a lot of worse. There's a lot of bad things about this one that I don't know how they necessarily resolve right off the bat. And so, yeah, if it was like a nightmare scenario where it was like 9 to 12 months of that strike, the movie probably won't happen.
No.
Or not, and I think every single movie will be rescheduled that hasn't been filmed. At that point, it's almost everything gets pushed. And but if it is only like 3 months, then Stephen Knight gets the draft in before, and they start knowing where they're going a bit more. Then like if the fucking movie takes place on fucking Oct 2 and Rey's on Oct 2,
it's scaring folks right now, dude. I got buddies right now that I was talking to yesterday on my Costco run. Called up a couple different friends. They said work right now out in LA for the studios is as bad as it was during COVID. Everyone's scaled back.
Yeah, I was reading an article. I think it was on through one of the trades saying I think they said that the production is down 34% in LA at the moment, like due to the impending writer's strike.
Yeah, and it's not going to get better either. It's not going to. That's going to keep going. We're going to see this big dip during this strike, and then once again 2 months out, directors need the same thing. They want a lot of the same stuff. They want the same organization, and a lot of the same streaming, gives from the studios. So it's that's why I'm just like, man, I'm curious. I find it fascinating. I'm curious to see how this all goes. I want them to get what they deserve, and I want my Star Wars movie on time. But I'm just gonna laugh though if I'm like, they finally got their shit together. They finally were like ready to go, and then the industry's like, nah, we're just not gonna make movies right now. We're just not gonna do it. We're just done. I think it has to be like fucking hell. What the fuck?
I do think the longer it takes for a film comes out, the better it'll do, because it's that gap. People who are like, they say they hate Star Wars, they'll be back. Like,
but nobody hates Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans, and nobody loves Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans. They love to hate it. Like the people who complain about it, the Rey movie when it was announced, they're going to be there day one, and they're going to make a shitload of content based off of how much they hate it and what's wrong with it.
They still checked out Andor and called it boring and the worst Star Wars thing, and still watched it all.
They'll always go and see it. Like they.
The real fear I have is movie theaters, though, Bespin.
Yeah,
because like if we got a long-term strike, this. I mean, I already dealt with, even in the small market I'm in. I mean, 2 of the theaters around here shut down, and the ones that were left have not spent any money upgrading their systems. So they used to be great before the pandemic, and now I can't even go to 2 of them because the quality of their equipment is so bad. I'm like, but they're still charging premium prices. So it's like,
I've booked to go and watch Return of the Jedi next week. And
I'm sorry.
So
what the fuck? Return of the Jedi, Rob. If you don't like fucking Return of the Jedi, you're
so
fucking
I'm glad.
Listen, right? The prices. I don't go to my local. I know that's probably bad and whatnot, but like I go to a place like that's 20 minutes away in the city, and the massive recliner chairs, like best screen. Like you don't have people like standing on your toes and stuff like that, right? And they was always pretty cheap. Like for a 2D viewing, it's like £6, £57. So I was like, okay, I'll go see Return of the Jedi because I only recently just watched it, but I thought, to see it in the cinema, I'll go again. It's fine. Well, they are showing it in 3D, and I'm like, but it wasn't released in 3D, right? So I'm like Googling, I can't see anything about 3D.
There's no 3D Return of the Jedi.
Okay, I'm like, there's no 3D Return of the Jedi. So I emailed them, and a couple hours later, the manager responded, yeah, it's in 3D. Because I was like, they're selling you glasses and everything. I'm like, okay, so I checked the other chains in the UK, they're all 2D. And they're on Twitter responding, yeah, it's in 3D. So I'm like, okay, book a ticket, whatever. They're charging 3D prices, so it's like £17. Like, to see Return of the Jedi, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it
in 3D. That's totally worth it.
Right, it's unreleased. Like, if I get there and it's only 2D, I'll just claim for a refund. But there's no one there. There's no one in the viewing. No one in any of the viewings yet. Well, 2 days later, the viewing gets taken down. yeah, we've changed it to 2D now. So I'm like, okay, so you completely got it wrong. It's not in 3D, and it's like £1 cheaper. And I'm like, it's literally £10 more than what they usually charge. All their other films are much cheaper than Return of the Jedi. So maybe they're having to pay a lot to get it in, because there's only like each chain. So there's, I think, 4 or 5 chains have like 7 screenings, and it's like only major cities as well. So it's very limited over here. And I've booked to go on, like, there's like 5 people in this huge screening, but it's like first thing Monday morning. But I was just a bit disappointed.
Did you try looking up the screening for Blue Harvest? Because George said that there was a Star Wars surcharge with Return of the Jedi. So they had to change the name.
I think they're making a big mistake by doing midnight showings of Return of the Jedi for the first one. It comes out at midnight, like it's a new movie. I don't think people are going to go to midnight screening.
Only
Return
here,
of the
Jedi. I'm pretty sure here it's like I'm going at like 10, and it's like 10, 1:15, 4:15. Or sorry, no, I'm going to see Avatar tomorrow at 10. I'm seeing Return of the Jedi at 12. Then it's like 4:00, 7, 10. The 10 and 7 are like got quite a few people now. So it's like opens on the 28th, so Jedi Survivor Day. So I was like, I can't go that day. So I'm going.
Do you
like,
become
the last
Avatru for the day when you do that? Like,
I'm ready. I'm ready to go.
Avatru.
So I'm only going tomorrow. I wanted to see Avatar again, but I was like, to see it in IMAX, it's like £17. I have to pay for parking because the IMAX screening is in the city centre. To go on my own, like, it's like a £22 screening, like 3 hours out of my time when I've got work to do. Like, it's a lot. So I never ended up going. I kind of forgot about it and I've been busy. But then they're doing it for £4 plus parking, so it's like less than £10. So tomorrow I'll spend my morning watching Avatar, and it's almost sold out. And I was like, I wanted to go when no one went. Now everyone's going. So
yeah. Oh, I mean, if you don't get COVID, it's more fun seeing it with a good.
I've been to Celebration. Crowd. I've been to Disneyland.
Yeah.
I've not. The one time I got COVID, I didn't leave the house for 2 years, and
that'll teach you.
That's why we're friends, Avatru. You got my kind of fucking luck, right? I'm gonna call him Avatru.
No, like I genuinely didn't.
He's my boy.
I think I went out once to like see my friends when it was it was no longer lockdown, because I hadn't seen them in like 9 months.
Right.
And then at Christmas, I got it when I didn't leave the house. So I hadn't been out for 2 years, got COVID from not leaving the house. And then now, luckily, I've been, 5,000-6,000 miles away, been to Celebration in the most crowded place I've been in. I'm fine.
Are you gonna sing the Jedi Rock song with the Yuzum? Or are you gonna belt it out?
You're gonna like Rocky Horror it, like get up in the front and like act out the whole bit. You're gonna be like, put your hand on your waist and do the
like you come on, you gonna do it for me?
You can do this. You can do the fucking size noodles with the hand and the no.
I saw at Celebration. I saw the original bit for the first time. I'd never seen it before. I'm like, this is so much worse than the special edition. I'm glad I grew up watching that version.
Just the puppets going.
Yeah, it just looks so bad. I'm
me.
Yeah.
Come the CGI size noodles. You can't like the CGI size noodles with the Twizzler lips.
Back when I watched it for the first time, it wasn't a big deal, but now it's just like, it's like I can get over a bit of cringe for like a minute, because then the rest, like the second half of the film, is like the best thing as a child to me.
Someone said the Yuzum sounds like George Lucas climaxing, and I can't get it out of my head every time.
The actual right answer was to go and just to remake those scenes using the CGI techniques that he was working with at the time, and just upgrading the shots instead of reimagining them and having the The big thing to me, actually, I actually kind of prefer the updated song, but the part where he does climax and he does like put his face like in the camera and the mouth looks wrong. It looks like a fucking Pepsi commercial from 1999 or something. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's the part where I'm like, you shouldn't have done that. That's where you went too far.
Here's the problem though. If that were the original song, you would never have remembered Max Rebo. because those puppets didn't move that well, Rebo moved the best. He moved better than Size Snoodles back with the original song. So you'd really focus on Rebo doing his dance and his ears moving. That's why you liked him. Right, so you wouldn't remember. You'd be thinking about this fucking Yuzum who's got like crickets in his fucking teeth and shit, you know, because he's going down on a Jawa. Like,
Right.
him and young Paley were running a train, you know, like the fucking night before out in the Bunta Eve. I mean, it's right around the corner, Jason. Like, you don't know if you're aware, Bunta's like right around the corner. People get down in Bunta. So
then that was the backstory that led to Paleomoto. That's how they created her. They're like, where does this character come from? What's her motivation? But, all right. Well, we did it. We did it, you guys. We did
One
it.
last thing, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Something that's gone a bit under the radar is Kathleen talked about Cal in live action and stuff because she said, so here's a quote from her. She says, I've seen a lot of chatter online about it. It could be really interesting, but it's not something that's front and center. And the reaction is a load of people saying she doesn't care about what's good for Star Wars. Other people saying glad it's not happening for now. But like it seems like Respawn and Cameron like pushing it. It's proof that she's talked about it. They've spoken about it, but it's like they're waiting for the third game to come out. Like it needs to end with a trilogy.
What are we talking about? I'm confused.
Like Cal
in live action.
Cal is coming
in
out.
live action. Okay. Sorry.
And like we've always talked about, like he gets more attention in the game than he would get in a Disney Plus series. More people like generally hit that first game than some of the shows. So it's like
I was told again by Felonius that he's going to be Kenobi's brother, Cal Kenobi.
Oh, Cal Kenobi.
Yeah. As soon as the games are done, they're going to go right to Disney Plus for Kenobi's brother.
Gotta say it, Cal Worthington Kenobi. That's his full name. But
so they got the name, the last name, the right letter right, but it was Kenobi. It's Cal Kenobi.
Yeah. Man, this browser is just shitting up. Disney should look into Warner Brothers. Made $850 million in 2 weeks with Legacy game, and now can make so much more in the next 10 years with the HP sales or with the Harry Potter series. Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's definitely things that they've done, but then you could also look at like the losses and the mistakes and like doing some of the characters that they've done with The Rock and Shazam and what happens when you don't pick the right character to try to like lead the films in the right moments and stuff like that. There's a lot of Warner Bros. Just hasn't been having a good time from what I understand overall. And that Harry Potter series stuff hasn't happened yet. With the game, we don't know.
The Harry Potter game's done well, but what about their other studios? They were looking to sell TT and NetherRealm. Like there was documents released, like they were getting ready to sell everything off. And with NetherRealm, they're working on a new Mortal Kombat that got announced by the CEO in a earnings call, and like the game director was like, "Oh, okay, you're just gonna do that then? Like, just break all the marketing." Like he doesn't care. Like a guy in charge like that just doesn't care about the products that they're putting out. TT, now they're being forced off Mando DLC, Lego Batman, stuff they wanted to make a Harry Potter open world game purely because this game's doing well. And they didn't want to make it, and now they're being forced to. So they're going all in on Harry Potter, but like it's not what the people that are being tasked to make them necessarily want.
Yeah. Well, and that's like the other thing is that Legacy game by all accounts is great. But at the same time, like it's good as a game. I don't think you go in and you don't fuck with that. You keep making games at that quality, like that game. You make Legacy 2 or whatever, but you can't just like keep pumping them out. That's what they're probably gonna end up offsetting all of their gains with their stupid calls in the aftermath.
I'm gonna take it to a different level though, right?
Okay.
And this is my take on it. I got nothing to prove this, but this is my observation. The Harry Potter game isn't about you being Harry Potter and reliving all the fucking moments from movies. It's about going to Hogwarts. You feel like you really went there and you're a student there. What location do we have in Star Wars where everyone's dying to go to in a video game?
Coruscant.
They just say, I want Star Wars. That just means endless planets and shit. They're not saying a specific fucking place.
It's going to give them Coruscant. Coruscant is the only one people want.
So they're going to have to set up some Jedi temple fucking thing on Coruscant. You
The
know,
Jedi Temple.
But they have to learn these lessons. They tend to not learn those lessons, Jason. They tend to wrap it around a new protagonist or a series of Luke Skywalker like surrogates, you know, and they have to like really invest in transporting you to another world that you've always wanted to go to. And I don't know if the mentality is there for that. I don't think things that way.
Like in that Harry Potter game, you're like a fifth year who starts as a fifth year because like I guess they just discover you late or something. I don't know why it's that way, but that's like how it goes. But like in Star Wars, they're like, oh, you're 9, you're too old, get the fuck out of here. so like Star Wars can't really do that.
Like, it's really weird. It's really weird. It's one of those weird decisions. I get George is like, oh, say if they don't let kids in and they got a kid, it's a problem. Like, but if you have the kids. Oh, it's so fucking weird. You know, you got the kids and you can't have
it's because when
they do have kids, they have baubles on their fucking heads and shit.
It's because if you get them after that age, they have attachment issues. That's the point.
But there is a chance to create that. I don't know why people are fucking wanting to go to a boarding school of all fucking things, but that's what Harry Potter's all about. It's like, let's get excited about going to let's leave our parents and go get raised by weirdos. In a convent,
let's leave our parents and go hang out with Emma Watson. That sounds like a terrible time.
Americans love this idea because they love everything they don't actually have except free healthcare. So like the real lesson to be taken away is we should all be having free healthcare, but they want boarding schools. So, but there is a chance,
Rob.
Like that's why the shame of the High Republic stuff is that they went and created another galaxy war when they probably should have been thinking about creating like a real strong academy like setting, a real one, not like the Kevin J. Anderson, we're in a haunted temple now, blah, like an actual fucking, you come in and out, you go through semesters, you know what I mean? Like you start there with the kid and you go through it till they graduate to be a Jedi Knight, like that should be their phase 1, 2, 3, and 4 bullshit. Because just another book series of, copycat Star Wars battles we've all seen a million times isn't going to drive this it's not going to get that fervor that you want from a Harry Potter game that $150 million in 2 weeks, maybe over the lifetime, but not in 2 weeks,
Well, but the one thing I would say is that Harry Potter game, the reason why it is ultimately like a successful, contribution to the Harry Potter thing is that it allows you to go into the whole Harry Potter world at the same time. You're not only in Hogwarts, you're able to go around like the grounds, the outside to the fucking place where Harry Potter gets his wand and all that shit. Like all of that stuff is there, and the wilderness is out there as well. So there is stuff that I haven't played Jedi Survivor yet, but there may be some more commonalities between them than not.
This is
at the end of the day. I'll tell you soon.
That's a specific temple with a village and a surrounding area. Coruscant's a fucking planet. It is.
Well, that's why
pick a planet is, Jason.
No, I don't. But that's why you don't go. That's why you don't go with Bespin as a planet. You go with Cloud City. You don't go with Coruscant as a planet. You go with like.
But no one's aching to go to Cloud City. No one's like, man, that Cloud City game, that's $850 million in 2 weeks.
It's because we in all the games, the recent ones, Bespin's done very well in Battlefront, for example.
Yeah.
Coruscant haven't done that, but that's because for what people want to be done right, it can't be done at this. Like they can't do it. Like the original game, the original Battlefront games, it's really basic. Like to have the film Coruscant in the game, it's not possible. So
right. Correction. It would be possible if it was pre-rendered backgrounds like Final Fantasy. Right? Remember old Final Fantasy games like pre-rendered backgrounds? You can walk around in front of them. You could do it that way. But open world, Cyberpunk 2077, procedurally generate movie quality assets.
Like we said, I said before, the Lego game did it fantastic. Like because it's a Lego game, people wrote it off. But specifically Coruscant and Tatooine, like you've got Mos Espa, Mos Eisley, Jundland Waste. You've got all the main, like every part of Star Wars films and whatnot of Tatooine is there, and you can just travel from one area to another. Coruscant, you've got the
and it's not small. It's actually like a pretty good like bit
it's
of
great.
territory.
It's actually really, really well done, and it feels more than just like the old Lego games. Like it's got something to it, like, and I really liked that about so many of the locations, especially Tatooine and Coruscant. It's just that because it's Lego, a lot of people just was like, "Oh, I'm not interested." But like, if they want to open one Coruscant, they got it. It's just a kid's game.
But the mentality as it's true at Lucasfilm, I see timelines and eras. I see them like working in like dates, like it's the Jurassic Neozoic fucking period. I don't see them going, hey, we got this new series of books. It takes place on Jeddah at the height of fucking Jeddah, and it's about these kids that actually go there, and you're gonna spend the next 7 years, and we got this famous author you've always wanted to have. They're writing it, and they're gonna build all this stuff. And then we're also gonna have some tie-in animated series, to kind of like work this in and feed that into a group of fans for 4 or 5 years, a very specific location. They don't do that. They create like an era. And that is just, and much the way that you complain about the Old Republic, which I agree with, it's just like an era that's surrogating for the thing you wanted something else to be, like it's not actually any different than what you're getting now. It just, you feel like it's different because, it's a game. It's not, you have to, going to a specific place and transporting you there is what Cameron's really good. Since he's been underwater, he makes you feel like what it was like when he went underwater. That's just not something that a studio is good at doing. An author can do it. Like it's very hard at a macro level to create that feeling for an audience. It's like a micro level thing.
Well, hopefully we end up with the new Rey Jedi Order starting film ends up doing that. That might be what allows them to make their Hogwarts game. This might be it.
And they have to make the temple and the location feel magical. It can't just feel like, oh, it's another
blue lines with like little things, and that means the cube comes out. Like, you want to see stuff on shelves. You don't want to hit the button and then the safety deposit box opens up and gives you the magic cool thing. You want to see the cool shit all over the house, basically, or all over the school.
And you want to go get a fucking butter beer and get party with Jawas down at the thing on your time off. Like, none of those stories had those moments from the books. And look, I read them all. When I met my wife, I had no freaking choice. Like, I held out.
Yeah, they're good books.
But I know I liked them. Well, I didn't like the first two. You could skip the first two, jump right to the third.
Yeah, the first two are kind
pointless.
Of dumb.
But that it's that cycle of seasons of going to school and experiencing time with your friends that's what makes you feel like you've been to that place. Mm-hmm. And Star Wars, when it just goes to a location over and over again, you end up with that Tatooine effect. Like you really got to make people want to be there. Anyway, I've said it.
Yeah, I would go. When you said Jeddah, I was like, I play a game at about a point of being on Jeddah and going into the places where there's civilization with Jedi, and then there's ruins, because it doesn't all have to be ruined at the same time. Could have been it was a mixture of both.
So far back too, you know what I mean? That it didn't look like how it looked when we see it in Rogue One.
Yeah. Right. It might have been like Mesopotamia kind of something like that. Right. But anyways, we've gone up really long. I'm sure Bespin's watching football or something right now.
I'm not doing anything. I'm just
okay. You're so quiet. But we'll be back on Monday. If anything huge happens, I'll jump back on, of course. But I doubt.
Well, Jason's going to CinemaCon, so he won't be here next week.
I wanted to go to CinemaCon, but I didn't go.
I told him weeks to try and go to CinemaCon.
Yeah, they're supposed to show some Indiana Jones there, so hopefully we hear something cool about it. But
and the
Flash. I saw the Flash trailer last night, though. I wasn't super sold on the Flash. Just not feeling it. It's not. I want to, but I'm just not. I also saw the Blue Beetle trailer, and that looked like a fucking. To me, that looks like a fucking streaming movie that they're trying to get you to pay for.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks like it. It looks like it though. Like Evil Dead. I saw Evil Dead. That was supposed to be a streaming movie that became a movie. Doesn't look like it's a streaming movie.
Horror, like you can do a lot with horror, like on a small budget. Like how much was Evil Dead? Was it 15 million to make Rise? Like with something like Blue Beetle, is so VFX heavy. Like it's but for what it is, I think it looks fine. I don't think it looks amazing, but I think it looks decent enough. I just want it to be a fun.
It reminds me of the first Shazam movie. It was like, oh, it's like a CW show on the big screen, you know, like a little bit more budget. But I mean, it's great to see, you know, representation. I mean, that's half my family is Miguel's family. I'm like, hey, you know, like that's great. Unfortunately, it looks like Shazam to me. Like I can't see how there's any difference personally, you know. And the scene that gets me is when he's getting the Blue Beetle attachment and he's screaming, right? And his family's like doing community like improv. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, like they're not reacting in the same tone that lead actor is. So I'm like, it seems weird to me. You know, it's not a cohesive bit right there. But
do you think it's just the way that the trailer's been cut to make it seem that way?
No, I'm talking about the way they're acting in the scene. Like if you look at how he is, and then you just watch. Like I've watched it where I'm just watching them, and then I'm watching him, and I'm like, are they even there watching? I don't. You know what I mean? It's almost like that's a fault of the director, in my opinion. But you know.
I asked my kids about Shazam. I was like, because I try not to like let them know what I think about things, let them come to their own ideas and likes and stuff. And I was like, Shazam. They were like, no, definitely not. And they're like, why is Shazam so old? That's what they said. And not that they don't even get that he's a kid who turns into the old guy. And then, but when it came to Blue Beetle, I asked them and they were like, it was like, yeah, maybe, you know, they were kind of like, they were a lot more open to a Blue Beetle. So it probably shows what I know. You know what I mean? In terms of like who they're trying to sell it to and who will buy it.
Your kids are like next level. Like Penny's favorite movie is The Founder, and they all just want me to watch Evil Dead Rise. You know,
your kids make greasy hot dog jokes, dude. You know what I mean?
I did censor that. I didn't show them the whole movie though. I censored it. I just let them see a couple of the scenes. But yeah,
right.
Yeah, that movie is. Oh man. But anyways, thanks for hanging out with me today, guys. And we'll think back to this, and when we hear about what the movie actually is, we'll all laugh about how dumb we are and how smart they are, because their ideas would be so good and ours would be so dumb.
I'm hoping.
And if our ideas are better, then we laugh at them and we say, ha ha, Kathleen Kennedy.
I get to play the song when we're wrong, Jason, or when I'm wrong. I like playing the song.
He hasn't played that song in a while.
Played it last week 3 times. You didn't watch the show.
All right, guys.
I was busy.
It was Mando week, and then we all had a lot on our plates. But all right, guys. We'll see everybody next week, and have a good weekend. If you go to the movies, I liked Evil Dead a lot. I think it's worth seeing. Pretty good overall. But all right, bye, guys.
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
It's the end of the show.
Come on, let's go. Hey!
You know you should go.
Come on, let's go.
It's not about spaceships.